That's an
Interesting.
unexpected outcome, isn't it? And the reason it turned out that way, very simply, was you had powerful people, brilliant people, none of which were on the same page. And you ended up with a factionalized group of managers, and they weren't all pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to figure out that this was not a path to success. And so putting
Let
that
me
team together was crucial.
let me probe that example for a second, because I think it's valuable to learn from. You have three people who aren't on the same page. Hindsight's 2020, but at the time, did you view that as healthy conflict, and um, each of them had sort of valid observations about the best path forward? It was simply a matter of reconciling them and choosing, or drill into what's some of the specifics were of where that didn't work well.
Well, I'd be happy to do that, although I don't want to get too specific where the people can figure out who I'm talking about. but one of the individuals was a finance person,
Yeah.
and uh, they competently understood accounting, but in terms of setting the right tone for raising capital, or putting a really good financial plan together, that fell back only on myself.
I see.
And we worked together to try and begin to understand how to raise capital, but they were not the kind of person with the right context or the right mindset in order to be highly proactive to put together a financial plan, not just to explain today's numbers, but to explain how are we going to support this kind of continued growth. So that was number one. Number two, we had one of the Northwestern MBAs was really super good at analytics, but didn't have a lot of experience otherwise in terms of senior management. And so, if you threw a sophisticated problem at them to figure out and analyze and build a spreadsheet and do a forecast around, boy, they could build you the most sophisticated spreadsheet in the world. But in terms of deriving the most appropriate conclusions from it, and making pragmatic and practical analysis over the structural analysis, there's a huge gulf between those two things. And then another one, another of the individuals was very successful as a serial CEO and wanted to come work with me as well. And yet, in terms of running sales, they got the title chief sales officer, but they never really owned it. They never really owned managing all the client relationships and dramatically giving us an uptick in new clients.
So he had never carried a bag, or he had never managed a sales organization?
I would say he only carried his own bag for his own companies in the past, and did it very well, because it was very clear he would be the beneficiary when you're the CEO, right? But when you are the chief sales officer of another company, it becomes less clear. And so the motivations become conflicted. And ultimately, I get the feeling in retrospect that some of these individuals were more interested in getting control of the entire company rather than helping the company get to the next level of success.
Yeah.
And so in other words, hating to sound like Machiavelli, but people put their own interests first.
They do.
Yeah, and that.
I have a question for you about that.
Yeah.
I have a question for you about that. So we both do management consulting. We have different approaches, and this is a point of curiosity. I mean, most CEOs who I talk to would not admit what you just said until you made it clear that you're in on this secret, so to speak, which is that people choose their own interests first. Um, you know, is it, are most CEOs not aware of this? I get the impression they are.
I would say, in large regard, it's how experienced the CEO is. And, if you are a mature and very experienced, successful business person, you know what to look out for. And matter of fact, what a more experienced CEO would do was they would probably either structure the upside for such individuals differently so that they would have a bigger upside than maybe I did, uh, or they would not hire people. They would recognize that quality in them and hire away from that instead of hire to that.